Okay.
We're good.
We're good.
We know you're the three most interesting people in the industry right now. David Carey, Tom Harty, and Bob Sauerberg. And we're not going to read their bios because they're stellar, and your reputations precede you, and I mean that in a good way. And although you are all veterans of the magazine media business, you are relatively new in your current positions, and the leadership positions now are very challenging. And so we'd like to dig into exactly what you're thinking about and dealing with strategically. So the first question I'm going to ask is about growth. And this is on everyone's mind in the industry. Companies are doing it differently, but we're talking about profitable growth. But you guys in your companies have either purchased magazine brands or growing a licensing business or forming partnerships. So I want to go start with David to talk about what you're doing, what the challenges are, and if you could talk a little bit maybe about marketing services as well. So David?
We're pretty obsessed with growth at Hearst Magazines, and we spent the last year making and integrating a couple significant acquisitions. We're focused on growth through diversification of platforms and geography. In terms of geography, it's important to note about our business, which is perhaps unique. We have 40% of our revenue is U.S. print and digital, 40% is international, and 20% is our services businesses. And we have around 10,000 employees, many added in the last 18 months. And so in terms of geographic growth, we now have, through our acquisition of the Lagardère properties around the world, we get exposure to really fast-growing markets for consumer magazines. And I brought, if you haven't seen, because I always have to leave home with some product, the properties that will ultimately be part of Hearst. This is Elle in terms of the Chinese edition, and Elle Men. Substantial products for magazines. And we know from our luxury clients that are shifting a lot of their CapEx spending from the west to the east that we get a chance to participate. In the U.S., we're focused on organic growth. Michael mentioned HGTV and the early success there through partnerships. We believe every sector has the opportunity for a fresh new concept. And in terms of marketing services through iCrossing, we get a chance to participate in the strong growth around search. Barry Diller and Steve Ballmer can attest.
Could you just a little bit more about iCrossing in case for some reason people aren't exactly familiar with it?
A 700-person digital center of excellence for us. The most highly regarded in terms of SEO and SEM. We acquired the company about 15 months ago. And again, if you want to launch a search engine, as Microsoft is doing and as Barry Diller tried to do with Ask, it's hard to do. iCrossing is one of Google's biggest customers, and we get a chance to benefit as clients spend more and more in search. That benefits iCrossing as well.
So can I ask you, and maybe Tom, I know you've bought some service businesses too, why would you buy a business rather than doing a partnership? I mean, what is it that you're thinking about strategically? Why, this is different cultures. How did you make that decision? We'll get back to iCrossing in a minute, but you've done, your company's done a lot on
We've
that.
done quite a few in the last few years. I think, and it's a model, it's a hybrid. I would call it a partnership buyout, but we usually go into these areas where we're not an expert in, let's say, social media. We bought a company called New Media Strategies, and we find usually these businesses are built on an entrepreneur who's had a vision, and we enter into an agreement where the entrepreneur stays on for a certain period of time and proves the business model, and we learn what they're good at, and they learn what we're good at.
Is it they are interested because of the capital, the expansion, and you're interested for the talent? Is that what
they're interested in the capital opportunity to invest in their business, and are also very interested in our relationship with a lot of clients. So what we bring to the party is a very in-depth relationship with a lot of senior level clients where we can introduce them to their
So they see that they can grow, and the way they're doing it is being purchased, not a partnership. They don't try to hold out and
there's usually an agreement up front that there's going to be a certain period of time down the road where they're going to exit, but it starts out as a buyout option, yes.
And Bob, on your end,
we've launched ID Active, so we've gone the route of taking, when we analyzed this business, we looked at buying a bunch of businesses, and quite frankly, we found that so much of the marketing services business was centered around how to take unique content, monetize it in another way. And we had so many assets within the company that we formed our own company and virtually inside Condé Nast. I'm very proud of the people that we have working with it, and we're looking that we'll be partnering too with outsiders to make sure that we kind of fill in the gaps on the specific skill sets that we don't have, that we don't that we can't meet our marketers' needs on.
Right. What are the challenges for managing these different kind of cultures? David, maybe you can talk a little bit about it. Is it they're separately run pretty much, or they act as an inside agency? How do you work with the marketing services from the magazine standpoint?
So we didn't buy iCrossing to only serve the Hearst needs. We bought a growth business, and so we wanted to be focused outside of the organization. There's potentially two challenges, but we feel comfortable. One is, one of the core positions of iCrossing is their brands as publishers initiative. This is all around owned media. They tell their clients that it used to be to reach audiences you had to do so through our publications or our TV stations. And now they tell clients you have your own permission to enter the space, you can have your own content strategies. And while that might seem a bit in conflict with our core business, we're, as magazine publishers, we're not going to stop the owned media initiative. We should definitely have it part of our organization. As client spending sometimes move above the line and below the line, we want to have full exposure to all of those shifts.
So you're another way that they can spend money with you and be pulled into the Hearst.
So we want to, wherever the client spending is going, we want to be present.
Right.
I think perhaps the only thing that's maybe, from my own personal learning, is, in the magazine business with our core media properties, we don't account for every hour of every person. Our friends in the ad agency business know about billability, about the staff utilization. That's new for us, and that's a good skill for the efficiency of our organization to think of our staff in that same way.
Tom, how about you?
Well, we have...
and you have a lot of locations,
yes, too. Yes, geographic divide is a big issue. We've acquired agencies in Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., Detroit, Texas, New Zealand, and our biggest challenge is probably geographic, but also cultural. We don't want to. We do a lot of things right at Meredith, but at the same time, we don't want to ruin the entrepreneurial spirit that goes on at these individual companies. So it's a blend. It can be simple management techniques of getting people together on a weekly basis to talk about what's going on. And on the client side, we especially don't want clients not knowing what's going on at our company. So we don't want someone going in to see a client on Monday and then a different person from Meredith going in on Tuesday without those people at Meredith knowing that the other folks are doing. So there's a lot of coordination that goes on that side.
Right. So let me ask another question about measurement and metrics. They obviously are incredibly important, and now with the cross-platform, we've got our content everywhere. How we establish these valid measures. I know that very recently Time has moved the discussion to guaranteed audience, and Meredith has moved it to guaranteed sales ROI. So Tom, I actually wanted to start with you to talk about that and how you came to that decision, what you think it's going to gain for you, and how you're going to go forward with this.
Well, this started over the last 3 years in the recession where we're out talking to clients. A number of our clients are under an enormous amount of pressure from their CEOs to make sure that the investment they're making in marketing dollars are actually giving them a return. And when you hear about magazines, they know that the magazines offered a great tool for them from a brand building perspective. But when they looked at they talked about the bottom of the marketing funnel, did magazines really convert to sales, or was it really an upper funnel activity from a branding perspective? And they would look to TV or the internet where they would get quicker reach. And we knew that our engagement metrics in magazines, the research a lot of people in this room has done it over the years, that consumers look at advertising in magazines actually as content in a lot of cases. So we have tremendous engagement. So we partnered a year ago with Nielsen to try to prove that we could actually drive sales, and it took us a year. Nielsen went away and actually did some matching of our subscriber base where they could come up with a subset of their Nielsen HomeScan product. And Nielsen HomeScan was an established metric out there that most of our clients used. And we did one study, blind. We didn't tell our clients about it because actually we didn't know what the results would be. And the first study came back very, very positive. So then we undertook 3 more.
So they did transactions and they knew about your advertising.
So this, mechanically, without having Britta Ware here to be the research expert, it's a test and control method where they have a 100,000 panel of Nielsen HomeScan consumers who wand every purchase that they bring into the household. And then we're able to make a subset of that of just Meredith subscribers. So you come up with 12,000 people. And the difference between the two subsets is that the Meredith subset, are only exposed to the ads in Meredith magazines. So you could see if there was a sales lift in that subset. So we did 4 major packaged good companies over 12 months, 14 brands, and we finalized the research in May. And every single brand, 14 brands, had a sales lift and a positive ROI. And the results were just unbelievable.
Now, isn't it going to be expensive for you to constantly, for all your advertisers, to keep giving them this ROI research?
It's not as expensive as you would think. And this data exists. Nielsen saves all their home scan data for a number of years, so you can actually go back into the data stream to read the results. And after reading the results of 14 brands, we decided to come out with a guarantee. Take a little risk. And in this environment, the advertisers are applauding that we're willing to take a risk and prove an ROI.
So it'll be a make good, let's say, if you don't make it, just like our
correct.
standard way of doing it.
It would be the same way that we would do if we didn't have a rate-based delivery. That's correct.
Okay. And so you started in July, so tell us.
We've had about, our team is out there. Michael Brownstein, I think, is in the audience. I think Michael's personally done about 70 meetings. I think we're up to about 125 meetings. Out of 125 meetings, I think 2 meetings we've had some people not believe the data, but all the rest of them have been very, very positive. And again, Nielsen, on our part, Nielsen asked us if we wanted to do an exclusive, and we thought this was so important that we didn't want to hold it just for Meredith. And so this is available to everybody in the industry, and it's great to see Time Inc. take a tact and come on board also.
Bob, what's going on for your measurement? What you think is the most critical thing in measurement from
Well,
Condé's point of view?
I think I'm excited about what Tom's saying. I think that's a great thing for all of us. We find that most of our advertisers, when you go, there's a lot of, they're interested in branding as well as the sales approach. So we've been doing pre and post measurement ROI studies for our top advertisers for years, believe in it, and think that, creating the right mechanism to properly evaluate that, in addition to the sales lift as well as other measures, is an important thing that we're very interested and involved in trying to solve long term.
Okay. David?
I think 2012 is going to be an exciting year on the research front, not only the work that Meredith and Time Inc. are doing. I think, as Nina mentioned, all the work around total audience footprint is absolutely vital, especially where our brands are going. And so that's the way we see our audiences, both consuming our content in print, on tablets, and on the web. We also, for all of our big corporate initiatives, they are usually paired with research as well. And I think all of the companies are stepping up and funding these areas with more dollars.
Okay, so the questions from the advertisers about the digital, is that, have you been able to put it into the same package, or, I know the ROI is really print is what you're talking about, right?
We started with print. We're actually in the field now on the digital side also. We started that, but we just felt like, there was a halo effect on magazines that we felt wasn't justified. We believe that the right media mix for clients is the best answer. So that's a media mix of all mediums. But we just felt that the magazine arena was getting picked on a little bit too much. So we had to come out with a bold step and decided just to do it on print to start.
Right. I mean, I think getting this content across all these platforms is going to be very difficult to present to an advertiser in a cohesive way. So it'd be interesting to see how that all works out. Let's just go more into the tablets and the mobile strategies in terms of circulation sales and the platform proliferation and the relationship with the print product. All three of you have gone different ways, and describe it just a tiny bit, but talk about what you're thinking about from a strategic growth standpoint and how you think it'll grow. So David, if I can ask you about, you have separate products that are sold, all boats on their own bottom at this point. Yeah. So if you could talk about why.
So I recently was at the Paid Media Conference, and I basically, the words paid and content together are my 2 favorite words, especially when used in the same sentence. And we see this as really driving much higher consumer revenue. And if we think about most of our businesses, our magazine business is about, let's call it 75-25 between advertising and consumer. Our traditional web business is 100% advertising, and our goal for our tablets is 50-50. So we've made the decision at this point not to offer free anything in terms of our tablet products. We also like to go in early with all of the new devices in the storefronts. It's been a characteristic of our company. We were in early on Zinio. We were, I think, the first of the big companies to go in with all of our products with Nip Color, which was a fantastic opportunity for us.
What's the advantage of going in early? Why do you like that?
Well, try picking the winning platform, the winning storefront of the future. And so there's so much change between devices and consumer experiences. And so you need a tremendous exposure to each one. And you do learn things early on of what you do right or what you do wrong. I think when the iPad first came out, we all believed that it was the only device that our content was going to work. The screen quality is so good. It's so fantastic in terms of what you can do. And then we learned through really our Nook Color experience that the replica market was far more robust than we ever thought. We have sold so many subscriptions on the Nook Color. Consumer satisfaction is high. And what it taught us is that portability is the consumer benefit, not video, not interactivity. So we see there's a lot of range in terms of what consumers want. And so last week we announced we have a run rate of over 300,000 monthly circulation units paid across our devices. We are so excited. That Kindle Fire announcement for everyone in this room is absolutely critical. I think that number for us is going to double in short order.
Are you putting all of your publications on at the same time?
We'll be in right from day one.
Okay.
And if you would have told me 2 years ago that we'd have a chance to have north of $10 million of consumer revenue from digital, we didn't think that was possible. That's going to happen before you know it. And so again, what these devices have done is allowed us to finally monetize our content digitally. And in that way, I think that the companies all together have taught consumers this is something you want to pay for that you don't get for free.
And now, Bob, you have the opposite, have gone the opposite way from strategy in terms of purchase, that if you buy a subscription, then you get the app, right?
Yeah, I don't know that we're,
I wouldn't say opposite,
how
different.
far misaligned we are. I mean, I think the reality is that we are totally aligned, that content that is packaged and beautiful and a lean back experience is going to be a paid environment. So all of us, the industry, I think that's an important thing, and I encourage us all to think about that. That's number one. I think, a big part of this too is that we have to recognize that this is an industry that is just over a year old, and we are all still in the R&D mode. So to the extent, to David's point, we've got a $15 million business that came out of nothing that didn't exist a year ago, and are actually really thrilled about what it does to delight consumer needs, as well as the potential that it has to be an amazing tool for advertisers. So we're very bullish on this long term. We think in the short term, it provides us an opportunity. We have a rate-based advertising model, and we see this as a thing that's stimulating growth. We're seeing new people. We're seeing younger people. We're seeing nice traction and growth. We think ultimately that it will be the key asset that will allow us to revalue the consumer proposition at Condé Nast. We are very focused on finding the right way, and I think we all know through all our price testing, all the subscription work we've done, how hard it is to lift prices when you're selling X amount per issue for a print subscription. My goal in life is to find a way to transition from that to selling access to a branded experience. Now that branded experience could be a variety of things. It could include a magazine, it can include a variety of assets and things that we have an abundance of at Condé Nast. So we're thrilled about that potential. That's a huge upside for us. That's a game changer. Again, not about just changing the price of a print subscription, but redefining the product offering in a way that creates a branded experience.
So then when you put these together, you put the app and the digital with the print, you're saying that that's going towards that strategy of...
Well, I mean, what we've done is, our strategy to start, I would really characterize it as an activation strategy, as we wanted to get people to start taking a look at the tablet content so that we can get more volume, understand what their needs are, so that we can modify our content strategy and our market strategy to meet their needs. So we activated them, and then we're going to be going back, through a renewal series, because we can identify all of this, and we will be revising the pricing as we go forward. When we launched the tablet apps, we raised the price and sold bundles for both print and digital, and so that was our first step, and the results are fantastic. So if you look out over time, think about the potential of a higher price with a digital relationship where they're you're connected, and it's a one-click buy. And we're dishing up content, print, digital, apps, whatever we've learned that the consumer really wants. We think that that's really transformative, and it's really going to drive exponential revenue growth.
And Tom?
Well, it's been our biggest investment as a company in the last 12 months, but the one advantage that we have is that the demographics of our brands are a little bit more towards the median of the country, so we don't have a lot of consumers going out and buying $700 iPads at this point. So we're learning a lot from our friends to the left and right of me. But
so you're letting them invest in the information, you're stealing all the information.
We're doing a tremendous, the numbers are still very small. So it's hard for us to draw conclusions. We're trying to build a long-term business model. But to David's point, it's interesting when you first get into this, we launched 3 of our brands, our largest brands on the iPad, and probably put our biggest investment from a resource and time and money. And we launched on the Nook kind of as a whim on the replicated version, and it has our highest results so far. And it took the least amount of resources from both a people resource and a dollar resource. So I think there's a tremendous amount to learn in the future. The great news is that we compete. It's great for us to compete because it makes us all better, but at the same time, we're partners in Next Issue Media, and it allows us to share certain information and help build this business model into the future for all of us.
No, we talked about the consumer, but I haven't asked you really about the advertising and how that's going to work with the tablets and what success you have or haven't seen so far in that area as a separate product. So, David, what's going on there?
In our tablet editions, not so much in our replica editions on NetColor because the technology doesn't fully enable it, but on iPad, it's a mix of advertising that is specially created for that experience. And when clients really lean into it, they do a fantastic job. It enhances the whole content experience when it's done right.
So you're saying when the advertiser has the right advertisement?
Yes, all advertising is good, right? Of course,
right, we do.
But when they really push it and they don't simply repurpose something, it lifts all boats. The overall experience is so much better.
Right.
At the same time, we've done a great deal of research against our replica apps as well. And I think this is true for everyone. The engagement factors are fantastic. How much time is spent, how many times it's read. In every way, it mirrors or sometimes exceeds the data we see on our print products. And I think that we're all out, and I think we're all seeing the same thing in sharing that news with clients, is here's a digital platform that mirrors what we've historically seen with this immersive, deeply engaged experience with our ink on paper business.
Okay. And have you had advertisers, clamoring to be part of this,
Well,
Tom or Bob?
I think the way to look at this is it's still early, and the scale is needed.
Right.
But the platform, particularly with our enhanced versions of our magazines, is really a tremendous opportunity for advertisers. We are really proud. We have a phenomenal digital studio at Condé Nast who has a bunch of innovators who've created new and unique things that have delighted many advertisers on our tablet editions. And that's just that. We think that there's great long-term potential. I'm with David. Every stat, every number, this looks exactly, if not better than print. It's a phenomenal, engaging experience. We know it's working for advertisers. We think it will work for them even better longer term as we fully develop it. And I just encourage all of us to take time. Let's take this R&D period, find ways to work together to build this for our collective businesses.
So I want to talk about, or ask you guys about gaming sort of mentality and social networks and how that's affecting your staffs and what you're doing about it in terms of trying to promote it, use it, and if you could give us some insight into some of the strategies that you're working with. David, can I start with you?
Yeah, gaming, we have a few things we've done. If you go to Cosmo.com, there's Shoe Mantra, a fun game within the site, and Esquire did a fun app, the hardest puzzle ever. I only got to the second level. Anyone who's gotten further, I applaud you. But gaming is really is not a top priority for us. Social media obviously is.
Okay.
And not only to have yet another tool to drive engagement with the audience, but also to drive traffic back to the sites, to drive app sales. We launched on the tablet a terrific new product called Cosmo for Guys. It's a tablet-only product to take advantage of the technology, and there's a great social media strategy around it. In our company, both Cosmo and 17 have now more than 1 million Facebook likes and some of the highest from the magazine business.
Do you have a separate staff, or how does that work in terms of, especially
it straddles between the magazine and the digital group.
Yeah.
But I think the next challenge for us is there's a couple good examples in broadcast that struck me as ways that we can even further improve. If you watch The Voice on NBC and you see how social media is woven into the actual core of the concept, or you saw what the VMAs did this year, and so I think it's all changing so quickly that we can do an even better job of in our pages. And in HGTV, in the first issue, you see a lot of social media activation all the way through. I think we have to push it deeper into all of our products. And the next piece of it will then use the social media to drive the content and commerce connection as well.
Right. Bob?
Well, we're adding 1 million connections a month in social media. It's a big initiative for all of the media companies. If you take a step back and think about it, at Condé Nast, we sort of started the whole cultural conversation over 100 years ago. So it really is part of our DNA, and we're working through the right ways to really capitalize on that. We're seeing great results. I think it's not just, as we all work through this, it's not just about a volume number. It's also about how do you really create engagement and have them really connect to you. And I'm actually real pleased with the progress that we're making. And I think that you look at over the next couple of years, I'm sure all of us will have a 10x engagement and volume number on this. It's a key part of everything we do.
Are you running that connection through the editorial departments?
Primarily, of course.
Because I mean, it is about.
We've got community managers at many of our sites, and they're really working through this. And young, bright people that have come in, very much in the DNA of Condé Nast. These guys, they come in, and next thing you know, they're running the whole thing. I mean, the numbers that they've produced and the programs in place for like 2 months are incredible. They come in and things are doubling and tripling by the minute.
Right.
And so it's really just, and that's a key issue I think we all have as companies, is finding the right way to integrate new talent into the new platforms and things that we're now into, while still respecting and really continuing to foster the amazing magazine business that we have. We tend to talk about all this digital stuff so much, but I'm really very, very bullish on the magazine business. I think that, most of our growth will be coming from that. We've had a phenomenal year this year. Our creative people have never created more excitement ever in the history of Condé Nast, I think, than this year. So, I think that, the social strategy begins with the magazine and sort of it gets extrapolated through all the digital activity.
All right. And Tom?
Well, we see as a great brand building opportunity. Our editors are very involved in it. One concern I do have is we are stretching our editorial groups to the limits between tablets and digital and social. And we're also, as I sit back as a leader, as a company, to try to figure out how we monetize it. So
you're raising your expenses by having all this stuff.
We are building a great, 2 of our brands, Better Homes and Fitness, I think are in the top 10 magazine brands on Facebook, big numbers. But again, we're building tremendous audience and traffic for Facebook. Ultimately, how are we going to monetize that? It is building our brands, a brand building activity, but I question what the business model is for the future.
Right. All right, so now I want to ask you guys a more personal question, which is that you 3 of you have come through the business for many years, but in different paths. David is in marketing, business development, Bob in consumer marketing, and Tom in advertising. So I want to ask you, what in your backgrounds do you have to fight against as the head of the company? What do you have to suppress to make sure that you're a good leader? David?
I have the same weakness I've had since I was 14 years old. I'm terrible at every sport. And so...
so you don't buy sports magazines,
that was awfully
right?
hard when I oversaw Golf Digest and Golf World at Condé Nast. So if I play golf with any of you, I'll pay you up front. You know, I've been very fortunate. I've spent most of my career working within entrepreneurial roles within large corporations. And so, you know, something I lucked into, but has proved to be really great training for a period of time when we're stretching all the brands. And if anything, we have a big company of many thousands of employees that we're trying to have operate like a nimble startup. And so coming up through business development and product launches proved to be a very fortunate break for me.
Right. So that's an advantage, not a disadvantage.
That's an advantage. And the disadvantage is if I'm trying to entertain senior clients in any sporting activity, it's not very pretty.
Good. Right. So you have to have a pinch hitter, right?
Yes.
Tom?
Well, you know, actually, I just celebrated my 25th anniversary this month in the magazine business, I'm proud to say. I love the business. I started out actually in production and manufacturing, and then spent some time in finance, and then business development and sales and marketing. And someone early in my career, a mentor, told me to get as much experience in different areas of this business as possible, because his experience was that we were very siloed historically, and then eventually it'll pay off for you. So I think it's paid off very well for me. You know, the disadvantage I think I have, my gap, I always say, is that now I'm the leader of a company that is built on brands for women, 75 million women a month, and I'm obviously not a woman. So, you know, on the content side of the house, I'm always guarded in making decisions, obviously looking at a lot of research. But, you know, one of the first things I did in the last 12 months was name an editorial director to be at my right hand, Gail Butler, who is our editor-in-chief of Better Homes and Gardens and our editorial director for the company, because I don't want to be weighing in and making a big decision and making a mistake on something related to our brands.
Great, thanks. And Bob?
Well, I sort of feel like we're in counseling right now. This is actually pretty interesting. I think I'm pretty great. I don't know. So, you know, I've done more, you know, I think to Tom's point, I was lucky enough in my career working with the New York Times and with Chuck Townsend so long that I've had a variety of experiences. So while I did consumer marketing the last 5 years, I've run an ad department, I've worked in business development, and almost everything I've done. And so I'm sort of prepared for this growth initiative that we really have undertaken. And I really feel like that a big part of everything we're doing is innovation. And so, you know, the biggest issue that you really have to deal with when you come to work every day and you have the brands and the talent and the people, the editors and the marketing acumen at Condé Nast, is what are you going to do first, second, or third? Mm-hmm. And how are you going to prioritize that? And how do you manage yourself when you can see these opportunities everywhere you look that could turn into highly profitable things? And that to me is the biggest challenge, is really being able to do that. And I agree with Tom in that all these things we're doing, our editors are such an asset and a key part of the drivers of our business. We've got to get workflow and processes and things in place and use technology and platforms to really help them. So, you know, I see it as really a function of prioritization, managing yourself, communicating as clearly as you can, and a big part of why we've really set out a roadmap for the company, because there's just so much that you can do that you've got to really focus on the right things at the right time.
Okay, thank you. Now, the last question, we have just a minute left, is the flash round. So in a few words, what do you see as the next big disruption in our business in the next 24 months? Bob, I'm going to start with you because I haven't yet.
Well, you know, you have to start with technology and think about that. I mean, you know, Apple pops up out of the last year, and, you know, you can expect there to be a curveball. And I would just say that while the lines today are pretty carved out between content makers and big technology platforms, they're blurring, and we all know that they're blurring. So I think you'd have to look at a technology disruptor as a continued issue. And I would encourage all of us, you know, let's do the content thing really well so that no one has to feel that they have to come and fill the gap to drive sales for a technology platform.
Right. Great. Tom?
Mobile is still a huge opportunity, and I think, you know, the research that we're showing is the excitement around this idea of consumer digital wallet, that you're going to be able to make secure transactions and purchases from your cell phone. Mm-hmm. We see that as a big opportunity and something that we're going to be spending some time looking at from a commerce perspective.
David.
If you listen to Nouriel Roubini, the big disruption, you'd want to be home buying tuna and hiding in your basement. So putting that aside, I think two positives. One is, no question, a paid subscription model is coming to the iPhone, and the installed base of iPhones trumps that of iPads many times over. That's a big opportunity for us. I think the other challenge is the big disruption is probably now, we can't even see it, it's hanging in some garage in Palo Alto. And I think the challenge for us in this room is how can it be in one of our 6th Avenue or 8th Avenue or 3rd Avenue companies and not in the proverbial garage? That's the challenge we have to meet.
Great. Well, thank you very much. You guys were great.
Thank you. Thank you.